Vin and Mike! Happy New Year! Episode 60!
Happy New Year, everybody!
Happy New Year!
What a nice number to start out the new year. Episode 60.
60. You know, I still think about when we read the article about podcasts that reach episode 10, and it was 90% of them stop before they go to like episode 11. And here we are, episode 60.
Still going
strong. New year. We've gone through every single month of 2022. We started January 18th of 22, and now here we are, January 2nd, 2023. How's everyone doing out there? Look at all these people flooding the YouTube page.
What's up, everybody? Isn't that nice?
Very nice, very nice. All right, Mike, we have a special guest who will be joining us in a little bit, and we'll introduce him when he comes on. So let me do some of our usual, commercial messages and all that introduction stuff. So, of course, Vin and Mike is brought to you by @ViggyBets. If you go to Twitter or Instagram right now, @ViggyBets, tell him you're a fan of Vin and Mike, and he will hook you up with his New Year's promotion. I know he's got a bunch of stuff going on, with college basketball, which he really loves. He loves to give a lot on that. He does a lot. Baseball season is coming back. And, of course, two of the biggest betting things are coming around the corner, which is the championship weekend of the NFL. And, of course, the biggest betting thing of the entire history of betting, the reason why Ohio made sure January 1st they were legal to have their sports books ready, the reason why New York did it last year, the reason why everyone has a sports book is for that Super Bowl, because, as we know, the bets are going to be great, and Viggy will help you with all that as well.
I know you can't wait to bet the Gatorade color.
Which color? What was it? Red never comes out because it stains or something? I think it's something like that. They don't dump red. I think they only have like orange and green because it doesn't stain the uniforms, or it doesn't stain something like that. Something crazy like that. But of course, we are on the Pigskin Podcast Network. We are in KKFI out in good old Kansas City there, and of course, you can catch us with everything on our website. That's vinandmikepodcast.com. And I know the website has some upgrades coming along in the back end, and we might be adding some other things. So make sure you check it out. There's a lot of good, cool stuff already on the website, which is our store, the Vin and Mike Podcast Store. T-shirts, mugs,
stickers,
phone covers, laptop bags. I mean, it's like all this cool stuff that you normally buy. It's got our logo on. It's pretty cool. I like it. I know you do.
I love it. I would love to see someone, you're at the airport, they take out their phone, there's our mugs right on it.
Oh my God. I would go up to them and be like, listen, I have no clue who you are. And you know who I am because I'm Vin from Vin and Mike, and you got my stuff. And they'll go, well, I was walking down the street and I saw this really nice mug sitting in somebody's trash can, and it looked brand new in the box. I just took it. So, all right. We're waiting for Jason Bailey from the South EndZone Podcast.
You know what we could do while we're waiting for him?
Yeah.
I love to tell my casino story.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Let's listen.
He said yes.
All right. So wait, all right. Jason's coming on now.
Oh, he is.
Let me bring him in.
Bring him in.
Tell him what we're gonna do.
All right.
Jason.
What's up?
Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you guys. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great. So Mike is going, before we jump into anything else, Mike is going to tell his casino trip story from Friday. So, All right, Mike, go ahead.
Thanks, Vin. So just to preface this a little bit, about 4 or 5 years ago, Vinny and I went and we were in Arlington for business. We went to this casino in Baltimore, and it was just electric because we played roulette and numbers were hitting one after the other. Never seen anything like it. It's probably our good vibes. I don't know.
Yeah, it was
so So we decided to take a break because we literally just got there and went out for dinner and then went to the blackjack table, and it was the same kind of positive energy. Everything was hitting, but we made sure that there was a full table, that people around us. I know this sounds crazy. I really feel that the dealer that you have really emulates the kind of experience that you're going to have. I find that the dealers who are very talkative, who want to have fun with you, it just seems like you win more often. Whereas a dealer who doesn't talk, or they're just have a bad attitude, you're not really into it. So that's what happened back then. I thought to myself, if I ever get a session like that again, it would be amazing, but it's very unlikely that it will. So I went with my buddy, actually my next door neighbor, went to Bethlehem. It actually used to be called the Sands. Now it's another name. And we were playing craps. Actually, it's very hard to find people that you want to play craps with. He plays craps. And we were playing, with craps, ups and downs, rolling of the dice, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We got to go around town, took a break, which is key. Going to casino, you don't want to keep going and going. Took a break, then came back. I went to the roulette table. The significance behind this is, on actual kind of a serious note, is I lost my buddy who I played with in Atlantic City 5 years ago. We played poker in Hoboken all the time. We had a game, and we went to Atlantic City. And at that time, he played everything, but primarily a poker player. And he was down good amount of money. He's like, Mike, let's go to the roulette table. I said, okay, let's go. And he played number 7 and 23. Those were his numbers. And it hit number 7. And then from being down a lot of money, he was back pretty much even. And we were hanging out. We had breakfast the next morning. He was down on times. He was out of work. But then he told us the good news that he got a job and he was going to Costa Rica to celebrate with his new girlfriend. And he never came back. He passed away. He drowned. It was horrible situation. And a young guy. He was 40 at the time. Just a great guy, great spirit, great energy. A lot of great casino trips with him. So I said after that moment that in his honor, I would always play 7 and 23, always when I go to the casino. And yesterday was no exception to that. So I was down. I was down in craps a little bit. Went to the roulette table, and first number that hit was number 7. It hit, got me back. And then after that, it hit again. I think I was on number 30. And then, Vinny, you'll appreciate this. And it hit number 33 for Patrick Ewing.
There you go, Patrick.
And it was nickel table. So I had a good amount of money on each number every time. But I was smart because I know that eventually you will lose. So after the third hit on a straight number, I go, I'm taking my winnings and I'm getting out of here. And that's what we did. So it was a good trip. It was it definitely reminded me of that time in Arlington. And those are the kind of trips you'll never forget, because it's just like you look back on that and it's just it's a really good feeling. So
just so everyone knows, the time in Arlington, we go out. This casino is like 2 weeks old. We go out there and we chose like 4 or 5 numbers. So 7 and 23, of course, with 2 of the numbers. And I always play 23 because I like to play Michael Jordan. I like to play 16 because of Joe Montana. I like to play 32 because of Marcus Allen. I have like the reasons I play numbers are sports related, which, whatever. But if I remember correctly, we hit 7 or 8 in a row.
It was sick.
And it was just unbelievable. I mean, we hit so much that, the pit boss comes over, making sure we don't have like magnets on us, making the ball like spin, like they start getting a little antsy when you start robbing the casino, especially it was a brand new casino, like 2 weeks old. And there's like nobody there because we're there at like 3 o'clock in the morning and we're hitting number after number after number. And I know they were getting like all crazy. And then we had to go find food. And if I'm right, the dealer gave us food vouchers, right? Because there was like nothing open and there was like some like place in the back that was open.
Right.
They gave us like food vouchers to eat. So we went and eat. And then we came back and started playing blackjack, and that was another just run and run and run. And it was so crazy that people were getting up leaving as we were hitting, and Mike goes, no, you can't leave, and started giving them money to bet so they would just stay so we could still hit our cards. We didn't care.
I don't want anyone leaving that table, or else it would have went downhill. Like everyone's staying where they are.
And then eventually everyone left, and we realized it was 4:00 in the morning. We better head back to Arlington, especially we had to get on a train at like 8:00 in the morning. So, all right, everyone, that's our casino stories and all that. And Jason Bailey is with us, who we had on last time just before the college football season started, right around crunch time of Major League Baseball. A lot of fun stuff then. He is part of the South EndZone Podcast, which is also on the Pigskin Podcast Network, TPPN, where you can listen to him and his buddies talk about college football, and we're happy to have him back on with us today. Jason, how you been, man?
Been doing good, Vin. I've been busy. I'm a normal person, man. I work for a living, so I'm, the podcast is not paying the bills yet, but someday.
It will one day.
One of these days.
Someday, man. But no, really glad to be back on, man. Been catching up with you guys at the show when I can, and always good to. You guys have become like some of my primary info on, New York baseball. So, no pressure. I won my fantasy league last year, so you guys better provide some quality info again.
We'll prep. We know April comes around quick, so we'll prep in March and get you some good info. Right. So for people that don't know, Jason is a big Atlanta Braves fan.
I couldn't tell by the hat.
And then, like I always say, Braves and Met fans have one thing in common for sure, and that's hating the Yankees. So, it's good stuff.
Yes. Facts.
So, all right. Of course, the big reason we have Jason on today is A, to talk about Saturday's games, and B, talking about the outcome of those games and seeing some of his thoughts for the national championship. So I was just telling Mike before we came on air, we were talking about our New Year's and what we did. And I said from 4:00 Eastern time and basically to 11:59 and 30 seconds, maybe even 45 seconds, because I flipped over to Ryan Seacrest as soon as they missed a 50-yard field goal and the ball actually went down. I watched 8 hours straight of both of those games. I couldn't believe they were both 4-hour games that rolled like right into each other. That was just unbelievable. They were fantastic games. I enjoyed them immensely. I think it was great for college football. Jason, some of your thoughts on those games and the outcomes.
No, I think you hit it right on the head. It was really competitive football. Both games had sort of the stigma to them. It's like, well, can Ohio State really stand up to Georgia? We'll see. It's not really a great matchup. Defensively to like Georgia's matchup was really good. So, but on the other side, most people expected Michigan to blow out TCU. Yep. I know I did. I mean, they were. I think I took Michigan when they were around a 5.5 or 6.5 point favorite, and I was comfortable with that. But it's really refreshing to see that the semifinal games were actually close, because historically they've all been blowouts. The average margin of victory in semifinal games since the playoffs inception is 21 points. So when you see a game like that's that close, it's like, oh, well, okay, the committee, maybe they got it right this year. There's no questions really. And that's what I was really concerned about for TCU coming in, was can they stand up to a Michigan? Man, they didn't really do anything spectacular. Michigan, I feel like I think they just kind of choked. I mean, if not to put it too harshly, they, threw 2 pick sixes and they did not defend the run very well. They gave up 260 on the ground. TCU didn't do anything spectacular. They just kind of beat them in the trenches, and that is not what I expected to see happen.
Yeah.
And I also didn't expect to see Michigan get a 50-burger home run.
I couldn't believe I saw a stat that was this the 6th bowl game that Michigan's lost in a row?
Yes. Yeah. 6 postseason in a row. And the majority of those have been, double-digit losses. Right. So.
Yeah. I thought this was their year. I was in total agreement with you that I thought they would roll over TCU they had the number one ranked best offensive line for the second straight season.
Yeah.
Which I thought, with the kind of defense that TCU played, and they even mentioned it, the 3-3-5 kind of setup where they bring in extra defensive backs. I thought, and especially the first run of the game, it was a 60-yard run, like to start the game. I was like, holy cow, this is going to be one of these. They're going to rush for 400 yards and score, 50 points and win by 30. But right after that run, that was it. They didn't do anything after that. And like you said, there was the fourth down play early there that they didn't score on, the turnovers, the penalties. I mean, they really, they stuck their own foot in their own mouths in a way. And then once they started getting rolling, their defense just couldn't stop TCU at all. I mean, they just couldn't stop them. They were running up and down the field on them. It was very impressive offensively by TCU.
Yeah, I mean, Max Duggan's numbers, if you look at the quarterback, I think he was 12 of 29. So, I mean, not overly impressive, just pretty mediocre there. But like you say, they gave up 260 on the ground to TCU. Yeah. That was really the difference. In the trenches, they bullied Michigan up front for a good part of the game. And I think Michigan really missed Blake Corum. Losing him a couple of weeks ago, he's a Heisman candidate type guy. That really, they averaged, if you take away the 60-yard run, I think they averaged less than 3 yards a carry after that. So they didn't have anything going. But like I say, Michigan, to me, I was not high on them coming into the year. They had so much turnover. But through the year, I started to sort of buy in more and more. But they're just like Notre Dame to me. They are always a quarterback away from being an elite football team. And that, I think, is what we saw. And that's not to say that J.J. McCarthy can't become that, but he's not there yet.
Yeah, he was better than I expected him to be, throughout the season. And then even in that game, he wasn't terrible, but he made terrible throws when you needed to make those. Like, those picks were terrible. He made some phenomenal throws, and you were like, holy cow, like this guy's lighting it up. But then there was those picks, and you were just like, holy cow, like what are they doing?
Yeah, you hand the other team 14 points. That's not a good way to win ball games. And he had a couple of other passes that should have been picked. Yeah. So just kind of a poor performance there. And the bottom line for this, because Michigan, in my opinion, even with all of that, had a chance to win. And the last 3 minutes of that game were a master class by Jim Harbaugh of how not to manage timeouts.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sitting there screaming at the television going, call timeout. What is he doing? They just burned 2 minutes off of the clock for nothing. And by the time they get the ball back, it's too late. I was just like, what?
Yep.
Did you see his father? They panned to his father real quick.
Yeah.
His father was freaking
I was like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, I saw
even his dad was on the sideline going, hey, Jim, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, you going to call time? No? All right. Okay. All right. Here we go.
I think his dad wanted to run out to the field. Like, come on, coach.
I mean, the thought process was to get the ball back with 3 timeouts. But like you said, I think if you get the ball back with no timeouts in 3 minutes, I think you got a better shot of doing things, right?
Agree.
Yes. So because then you start rushing, you can't really run a lot of different things you want to do. And with 3 minutes, even with no timeouts, you can still run the ball.
Yeah.
You can really run the ball. You could do, your full offense is still there probably until a minute, maybe even 45 seconds, right?
Oh, yeah. 3 minute offense and 30-second offense, it's totally different. And Michigan is not the type of team that is built to really succeed in a 30-second we've got to score right now offense from their own 25.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see their draft class over the next couple of years. Especially, I think Harbaugh now is going to stay there. I don't think there's going to be too many NFL rumors, so maybe kids coming out of high school that are a big-time quarterback and know that Jim Harbaugh is there and was an elite NFL coach and all this stuff. They really want to go there and have a shot of competing at a high level, 5-star kind of recruit quarterback that maybe they'll get a potential to get. So
it's possible. They finished 17th in recruiting thus far. So Harbaugh will have to probably hit a couple of home runs in the transfer portal like he did this year with his center, who, ended up winning the Remington, I believe. So they'll be looking in the portal to fill some gaps for sure with who they're going to be losing to the NFL and graduations.
And Michigan has some kind of scouting program, I know, in New Jersey, because they get a lot of top New Jersey high school prospects that end up in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
So I know they have something going on here that I don't know who it is or what it is, but it definitely works for them to get those guys to go out to Michigan, because nobody goes to Rutgers. All these guys that live in New Jersey that are these tier one or top tier kind of prospects, 5-star recruits, that they go everywhere else but Rutgers. If Rutgers could keep them, they could definitely compete.
Well, Rutgers, they did the same thing Maryland did. They left to take the Big Ten paycheck, and they don't really care what their record in football is every year. They care about the $130 million a year that's coming in. So.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and then let's flip. Well, we could flip to the later game and Ohio State, Georgia. I tell you, if Stroud is going to be the number one pick, I could see why. I think he proved that he could definitely be the NFL number one pick. I know scouts judge things and NFL judge things in behind the scenes, right? When they have the interviews and they do the background checks on these guys, and are they going to be class guys, top acts, and all this stuff, right? But the X's and O's in between the numbers and on the field, he looks like he can be a number one draft pick, end up probably in Houston and have to build a team. But I think he's got the potential there, and he really impressed me against the Georgia team that is humongous up front. I mean, they can just run everybody over. They look like an NFL defensive line. The kid Carter is if Stroud's 1, he's 2, or vice versa, however that works. Yeah. But it was really impressive with this Ohio State team, and I think Ohio State missed out on being that 3 seed. If they could have gotten that 3, I think they would be playing Georgia in the national championship next Monday.
I would have to agree there. And, what a great game, first of all. I mean, I was really glad to see Ohio State come out and not just get completely dismantled like they have the last couple of showings that they've, showed up in the playoffs. But if you go back to last season in the SEC title game where Alabama and Georgia played, very similar kind of team, very similar matchups, where, Ohio State's got all these dynamic receivers, and they were kind of light in the running game because of some injuries, Travion Henderson being out, things like that. So Stroud's got to sling it around. And last year, Alabama torched Georgia in the SEC title game, lost their 2 best receivers, and ended up losing in the national championship. And this is kind of the same thing. I think the difference in the game was Marvin Harrison going out in the third quarter. When he got hurt, I was like, man, Ohio State could be in trouble here now. And Georgia starts getting some momentum and they get rolling. But so that was unfortunate for that kid. Hope he's okay. I haven't seen any updates on him. But again, Ohio State, extremely impressive. And I agree with you. I think Stroud seriously upped his draft stock. He has not looked good all season under pressure. He's absolutely lethal when he's got time. He can just pick you apart. But if he's under duress, he has not been great to this point. And that was really the first time where I've seen him make some unbelievable throws on the move. So I don't disagree with you. It wouldn't shock me because, Bryce Young being such a small guy, I think that might turn away some NFL teams. We don't know what certain GMs or scouts might think of a guy who's going to measure in at 5'10" versus somebody like CJ Stroud who's got the size.
Yeah, I look at the NFL when it comes to height, and everyone's like, oh, Russell Wilson, and I say, well, first of all, Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. Let's not jump to conclusions. Oh, Drew Brees. Well, Drew Brees was a 2nd round pick. Kyler Murray was a short 1st round overall pick, and he's struggling. God awful, right? I mean, God awful, struggling. Baker Mayfield is not a big guy, struggling. Zach Wilson's not a big guy, struggling, right? So teams start seeing this, and it's like, well, I think we need a guy that's going to be at least 6'2", 6'3", and
we need a Josh Allen.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I know for me, when Herbert and Tua were going and Miami had to pick, I said to everybody, I would take Herbert here. And my big reason was the injury prone Tua. But not only that, he's not a big guy, right? And I think we're seeing that starting to play out for him. The concussions, all the little injuries that he's getting. I don't know, how much longer he's going to go. So I think now you flip the switch with Bryce Young here. I think you look at the same thing. Yes, he's got a lot of potential. Yes, he's got this big arm. But the NFL is a different animal. Everybody is, 6'3", 250 pounds and runs a 4.5. And that's like getting hit by a Volkswagen,
Yes.
I mean, it's just like, it's some serious noise. Like, they talk about the noise on the football field. And I think that's the thing people that have never gone to a live game and hear the crunching of two 250-pound men colliding, and it sounds like one of the scariest sounds you ever hear in your life. It's just like this boom, and now you get a guy that's 210 pounds and getting hit by somebody 50 pounds heavier at that same thing. It's just a scary sound and everything. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I agree. But and to kind of wrap this game up, I suppose. It was not surprising to me that after Marvin Harrison went down, that Georgia pulled it out at the end. Georgia has kind of been one of those teams all year where we've seen them struggle in certain games against Missouri. They struggle for a half against this team or that team. But never at any point all year have I thought Georgia's not going to win this game until Saturday. And there were 2 or 3 different times in that game where I was like, this is it. Ohio State's going to the national title against TCU. 2 teams that didn't even win their conference. What a joke. But I was just so pissed because I had a future out on Georgia, to win the national title. I was like, well, I'll throw some money out on them. I think they're the best team. So fortunately, that's still in play for me.
Yeah.
But again, tough break for Ohio State. Normally I crush them if they go and get blown out in the playoffs, but I don't have anything bad to say about them. I thought they played their butts off, and extremely tough loss. It'll mainly be interesting for them next year to see who's taking the snaps.
Very true. That makes a lot of sense. I was impressed with McIntosh on Georgia. The number 6 that running back. I mean, unbelievable hitting those holes. I think this guy is like NFL, like perfect, right? Like that's the kind of guy that a team will take probably in the second round, because now these running backs, don't go in the first round, second, maybe even third round, and fit into a team that needs that kind of player and be a superstar in his first year in the NFL. He just got that ability, and the way you hit those holes was super impressive.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was going to say I was also impressed with Dejon Edwards too. I think they were the 1-2 punch that really helped them. I think he.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he gets a lot of credit as well. He had a really strong game.
Georgia's running attack is one of those things where, and for a lot of this game, they didn't really run it all that much, and I guess I was wondering kind of why are they throwing the ball so much? I mean, Stetson Bennett finished with 398 yards passing, but now, granted, it worked out for him. He was, 10 of 12 in the fourth quarter. He was basically completely lethal. But Georgia's rushing attack, I feel like, is something that they should do more. But when you've got a guy like Brock Bowers, man, who, in my humble opinion, is the best player in college football at any position, I feel like you could line up Bowers at defensive end, running back, quarterback. He could do it all, man. I mean, the guy is an absolute freak. And I don't know if you guys saw where he was doing yoga on the sideline as he's completely elevated all except for one hand in bounds to get a first down.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is just absolutely nuts, and he's one of 3 superstar tight ends that they have on their roster. Kirby Smart has just – Georgia's not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be this good or close to this good every year for the next several years. They just finished number 2 in recruiting. So none of this that I see from Georgia surprises me. It's more surprising when it's a close game rather than Georgia, beating up on somebody.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kirby. I thought that was, impressive, that timeout. That was just
it won the game. Yeah, it won the game.
He noticed the formation, and just called the timeout. Right? Instantly, like he got there just before the snap. It was an unbelievable call. And this is when, me and Mike always talk about, is it players? Is it coaches? Like what is, where is that fine line? And that's the part of the game right there, time management, game management, where coaches have to excel. And that timeout is probably going to be one of the most historical things that you'll see, especially if Georgia goes on to win this national championship game next Monday, that people are going to look back on and go, that timeout right there saved our season and won our national championship for us.
Yeah, any Michigan fans that were still left watching football were just going, see, Jim, that's how you call timeout. That's why you call timeout, to help yourself, So it was that, we talked about a master class by Harbaugh in how not to manage a game. Harbaugh needs to watch some film of Georgia and learn how to manage the clock, because that just, again, great call by Kirby there. And I think that was the main difference in the game. So.
Yeah. Very impressive. Very impressive. All right. We're up on commercial time here. Let me do our little commercial. You hanging around with us, Jason, throughout, or what are you doing?
Hey, I'll hang out for any NFL talk if you guys want to talk NFL. But once you guys get on that round ball basketball stuff, I can't hang there. I've got no knowledge of the NBA. I saw some guy scored 60 points the other night. So
Luka.
Yeah, Luka. That's about my extent of NBA knowledge. I'm so focused on football and you getting into baseball mode here.
That's all right. There's so much NFL to talk about after yesterday and how things are lining up already. They put out the Saturday schedules, which are interesting games, and we're going to dig into that. So let me do a commercial. We'll come back. We'll talk a little NFL. So all right. The fans, the tradition, the glory, there's nothing more thrilling than college football, and it all comes down to the national championship game happening on Monday. My go-to for betting is DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps. All right, guys, who is your pick? Let me hear. Go ahead, Mike. Who you like? Georgia, TCU. Give me a score. Quick, go.
I don't know. You give it to me, Vinny.
All right, I'm going to go 37-23 Georgia. Jason.
Oh, man, Georgia's over a double-digit favorite here. They're a 14.5-point favorite. I saw. I kind of like that. The total's around 60. I would say Georgia 45, TCU 24.
There you go. And right now, new customers can bet just $5 on college football and get $200 in free bets instantly, win or lose. Plus, everyone can combine multiple bets for a bigger payout with DraftKings same-game parlays. I know Mike put some of his same-game parlays together this week and hit nothing, right?
Zero.
Our friend Anthony, who loved Minnesota, I told him, I said you'll be crying to me by 4:38 p.m. Eastern time. It was like 4:55. He was crying to me. I knew that game was
right on that.
But all right, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now with code TPPN. New customers can just bet $5 on college football and get $200 in free bets instantly. That's code TPPN, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age, eligibility restrictions apply, and of course, see show notes for details. All right. So finally got a new commercial there from TPPN. I'm hoping we'll probably get a Super Bowl one or a playoff one starting next Monday. Because I don't think we'll be doing national championship promos next Monday. Well, who knows? We never know. We never know with the network, right?
Yep, maybe. Could be.
All right. So NFL, big week just ended. Mike, I know you're very upset. I can see it in your face the entire time we've been on. You're ready to cry. It's okay. The Raiders are the worst second half team in the history of football. And I could say that factually because they're the only team in the history of football that have let 10 plus second half leads go and lost. So they are actually the worst second half team in the history of football. Now, I will digress back to your Jets because I know you're feeling it. You're upset. It's tough. The season looked like it was going playoffs. We're going to get in there. Maybe we won't win, but, we're going to have some January football that matters. But now it all crashed and burned. So go ahead.
Vinny, you said that so nicely. Thank you. Appreciate you. No, I mean, I was really thinking about this, and before the season started, the Jets were anticipated to win. I think it was 5 games. There were really no expectations. So if you look at it that way, they definitely exceeded expectations. They drafted very well in the offseason. But this is a team that went through terrible injuries. Breece Hall. They were 7-4 at one time. They started out the year with Joe Flacco. Then they went to Zach Wilson. The reason why Zach Wilson wasn't really talked about was because of the defense. The defense was tremendous. But we weren't seeing that great defense the last couple of games. And then Vinny and I talked about just how we got to see the Jets and Giants play December football. But the Jets coach, and Jason, you were talking about this with time management. The time management of Robert Saleh for some of these games was awful, with not calling timeouts when you're supposed to get your team set and just waiting, and then your team struggles. But Zach Wilson is not the quarterback, and I hate to say it too. I don't think Mike Wilson is too. Mike White. Sorry about that. I don't think he is either. I think what the Jets really need to do the offseason is get a veteran quarterback. This draft quarterback has not worked. There's plenty of great quarterbacks out there, but I always like to be optimistic. The team as a core, you added some really good people at all positions right now, but we all know to win in this league, you need a good quarterback that could get you down the field, and that's what the Jets were not able to do. They weren't able to score in the red zone. Between both Zach Wilson previously, just the confidence, and to see Mike White the last game, there was nothing there. There was nothing going on last game against the Seahawks. And what's made me sick as a Jet fan was seeing Geno Smith beating us. Geno Smith was 3-0 against all of his old teams, and just losing that way. It's hard because people say to me, you guys had a great season, you exceeded expectations. But Vinny, like you said, when you're so close to the playoffs and you're 7-4 and you're right there, and to go 1-6, your last 7 games, it's just not a way you want to end. So is it, what really did this? I do think it's part coaching, but I do think it's not. You keep switching quarterbacks all the time. So you had, again, start out the season, Joe Flacco to Zach Wilson, and then to Mike White, and then you had Joe Flacco come in for a couple plays, and then it just kept rotating, and you didn't get any kind of consistency. So they're out there. Now we just have to go get them. But don't be foolish and draft another quarterback. It doesn't work for you. It does not work for this team. So, yeah, when I see that freaking stat on the television, the longest drought in playoffs, it makes me sick because just the last 12 years not being able to make a playoff appearance. This was a year I thought we were really going to do it. But the thing that I'll take out as a positive, that we do have a good core. We had a lot of injuries, but we got to get that quarterback in play. And I think we could start doing some good things next year, get there. So we'll see.
When you think about a quarterback, right? Do you think about Derek Carr? Or do you think, where do you think in free agency?
He was on my mind. I was thinking, what's his name from the Eagles? Minshew. I think
he looked like Zach Wilson yesterday.
That's all right. Listen, I was thinking Heineke.
Okay.
I was thinking if he was healthy, maybe Garoppolo. So, I don't know.
We will take Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. We'll package them together.
Right.
We'll send them to New York. We want 6 first-round draft picks and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but that's ridiculous. Nah, it's just frustrating.
So in all seriousness, I think Derek Carr will be on the table. I think Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the table. I think a potential trade is on the table. I would stay away from Carson Wentz. I would stay away from those really retreaded guys that have been on multiple teams. I would just look at a guy that's maybe been on 1 or 2 teams that is going to find a new home that's serviceable and could come in there and just put the ball into Garrett Wilson's hands. Garrett Wilson had 1,000 yards receiving as a rookie with Joe Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
the guy's got potential of being a number 1 superstar receiver, right? I mean, Jason, you saw him in college at Ohio State and what he put up. I mean, guys got tremendous potential there.
Oh, yeah. I had him on my fantasy team this year, and he was the most frustrating wide receiver to own because every week I'm scrolling through going, who's playing trash quarterback for the Jets this week? Is it going to be Mike White? Okay, thank God. Maybe he'll get 11 targets at least. Not saying that all 11 are going to be accurate, maybe 5 of them, but he could score anytime. And the guy's, like you said, Vin, the guy's a superstar, has the chance to be. And, Zach Wilson, like you said, talent-wise, could he be the dude? Possibly, but I think the guy's a head case, man. I don't think he can win over that team, that locker room. I don't think they have any respect for him. And everything that I see and that I read is basically he's like locker room cancer. And to me, that's just not a good situation when you invested a high draft pick in that guy. So, maybe he takes some of those words of wisdom that Geno Smith was whispering in his ear after the game.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw the big embrace. So maybe he comes back next year and has a better attitude and is the dude. And maybe, he played at BYU. It's not a super high level of competition week in and week out like an SEC or a Big Ten. So maybe in year 2 he takes a step forward.
No,
so I think you got to wait and see.
You said it so well because New York it's just a place of its own. It is, once you lose that fan base, it's very difficult to get it back.
Yeah.
And I think it was mediocre play to poor play, but it was his attitude in the press conference that really screwed him over. Because Robert Saleh is a player's coach. If he didn't act like that and he took the blame that first time, I think he might have still been in to have a chance. But they had to teach him a lesson. So I'd be very surprised if he's back next year. I don't think he's the guy, but I'm not 100% on that either, just based on what I hear. And Robert Saleh he might want to stick with him. And I don't know, because I didn't see accuracy. I just saw a guy who was scared, didn't know where to throw it, just basic fundamentals. They just weren't there.
Well, the coach is in a difficult spot too, because that's your first round pick. If you dump him and trade him for peanuts, a low draft pick or whatever have you, he shows up somewhere else and dominates. That's the kind of decision that can get you fired.
Right. So do you stay and help build him and give him that confidence, or do you let him go? So I don't think it's a done deal yet. I just don't know which way the Jets are going to go on this. What do you think, Vinny?
I think he's gone. And the only reason I think that way is, like Jason said, is his locker room demeanor is terrible. And like you said, Mike, that press conference when they asked him, do you feel bad, that you didn't perform for the defense? And he said, no. I mean, it's like, what? I mean, the thing about the NFL quarterback, and I think it's the quarterback in general, is that they are the guy that gets all the accolades and they're the guy that gets all the blame. And they need to be the guy in front of everything. And even if they don't believe it, and even if it's not true, they need to step up and say, I need to be better. we as a team need to be better, but it starts with me, and that's what people want to hear, especially from that quarterback position. Because, Mike, we said it 1,000 times. There's 53 guys on an active roster.
Right.
35 of those guys show up at your local restaurant. You don't know any of them. You don't have a clue who they are. Not a single idea that they even play in the NFL. You might have an inkling because they're all humans that are larger than any man you've ever seen. But besides that, you don't have no idea. Quarterbacks are faces of franchises. Everybody knows what the NFL quarterback looks like. You need to be that face. You need to act that way, like the full 9 yards. You need it all to happen, and it just wasn't. It just didn't show up. And I think that's what bothered Salah the most, and I think that's what bothered Jeff fans the most. That's why he gets booed when he's just throwing the ball away, because they just they don't see it. And I think that really, really cost him the job. And potentially, cost him being the quarterback of the team. Now, someone will take a chance on him because, like Jason said, he's got a tremendous amount of talent. He's got a big arm, but does it translate in the intangibles, right? And that's the mental aspect of the game. That's the ability to work a locker room and be someone that can get in front of a team and lead them to, lead them moving forward. That's what he needs to do. So I don't see it. I think there'll be some better opportunities out there for a Jets team that can run the ball, can play defense, has Garrett Wilson, and you get somebody that can have a 60% completion percentage and manage the system there. And next thing you know, the Jets got 2 or 3 more wins, and a 10 or 11 win team in either conference is in the playoffs. So I think that's what they're looking at, right?
Yeah, I agree with Vinny.
Yeah. All right, let's flip real quick. Giants. I thought Daniel Jones yesterday was fantastic. Managed the game well. Barkley is just a difference maker for them. The defense has been playing good. I know there's a lot of people pissed off about Thibodeau doing his Angels while Nick Foles looked like he was dying right next to him. And I agree with, I don't know if you saw it, but I agree with Jeff Saturday said after the game that his offensive line should have done something about that. You just got your quarterback killed. He's sitting there in obvious extreme pain, and Thibodeau's making angels next to him. A lineman should have went over and smacked him upside the head. I mean, you don't sit there and let this guy do that next to your quarterback that you just let get killed. But to regress real back, Giants are in the playoffs, first time since 2016. They're stuck in that 6 seed. They can't go any lower. They can't go any higher. Right now, they're on pace, it looks like, to go back to Minnesota, play the Vikings, who, in my mind, I think they're the most beatable team of any 12-win team I've ever seen in the history of football. I mean, they just look something. I mean, yesterday was ridiculous.
Oh, man.
I mean, it was horrific. But I love the way Daniel Jones has been playing. I think a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, we thought both New York teams would need to make a change at quarterback. I don't know if the Giants need to make a change. I mean, it's a little suspect. You still get a little worried about his thought process and getting, but he has really no receiver. Like you look at, Richie James and Hodgkins and Darius Slayton. I mean, those guys are 3 and 4s on a lot of teams. You bring in a big receiver there. You keep Barkley. You keep him. The defense is really good. I think this is a team that will compete come playoff time because I think they can give the Vikings a tough time. I think that if they win that game and move into the next round, I'm not saying they're going to win, but at least how do you not bring them back, A, and B, now you can add some pieces to what you already have. And as we know, the NFL is open every year. You put yourself in position to move forward. But I was just impressed with Daniel Jones. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. He did everything right yesterday to win that game, and they won that game easily. And he's done everything right to get them 9 wins.
You know what I think about real quick with the Giants? I just love their coach. And Dable's a great coach. And I just go back to that first game of the year when he went for that 2-point conversion on the road. And that really just it was like telling a story what was going to happen this year and how he was going to coach this team. He has so much passion and enthusiasm, and I just look back at that. And the Giants were another team that nobody had any expectations for this team. I think they had less expectations than the Jets.
Yeah.
I think they were really – no one even gave them a shot. Great coaching. As you said, Vinny, Saquon's on a different level. But Daniel Jones – he gets the job done. He always finds a way. He plays smart football. Also, his running agility is phenomenal, the way he runs the ball. Just a smart player. So
I think you make a really good point with Dable. I think Dable puts Jones in positions to succeed, right? We talk about this outside of, the podcast world and everything and in business, right? You want to put people in a place to succeed. You don't want to set them up for failure, right? That's what we always talk about. And that's what Brian Dable has done, I think, with Daniel Jones. Said, listen, you don't need to throw the ball 30 yards down the field every play. I don't need you to do A, B, and C and all this other stuff. I need you to manage the system, get it to Barkley, look at these routes, maybe give you one or two options. If you don't see them, use your legs, move a little bit. You have this ability to really run, and that's really what he's done. And he's not made those mistakes, and they played really, really good football, and it's a testament, like you said, to Dable. It's a testament to a really good coached team on both sides of the ball, and that's where they're moving forward. So, Jason, your thoughts on Giants or maybe some other team that you're paying attention to?
Well, I think you guys hit it on the head with Daboll. I like Daboll personally. I'm familiar with him. I mean, you guys know he was Alabama's offensive coordinator in 2017 when we won the title there in overtime against Georgia. So I do know quite a bit about him. I'm familiar with him. And I like his style, and I think Vin, you make a great point about Jones. If Daboll continues to, I mean, the Giants are going to be a run-first team, obviously, with a freak like Saquon at running back, and like last year when they didn't have him, we saw what they looked like. But as long as they can continue to run the ball the way they have, they've been not quite as effective the second half of the season as they were in the first. Where they started 5-1 or something like that, but. Jones just needs to stay within himself, and they need to put him in position with a good running game to succeed. And I think there's a lot of quarterbacks throughout the league like that, where if you put too much on them, you're not setting yourself up for success. And to me, Jones is like one of those dudes. Like, don't ask him to throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns, because he might throw 4 touchdowns and 2 of them might be to the other team. So just keep it simple, run the football, be hard-nosed, and I think that's a good formula for success for them.
Yeah, I think the Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts way of playing football at the quarterback position is the new way of the NFL moving forward, right? A guy that can throw 30 touchdowns, 3,000 plus yards, but also rush 800 yards and score 10 touchdowns with his leg, right? Someone's giving you 40 touchdowns in 2 unique ways, whichever way you want to lay it out, but they put up 40 touchdowns. And I think Justin Fields is going to start moving in that direction. He's shown a tremendous ability, a lot better. The team is terrible. He's like the only player on the team, but he shows a tremendous amount of ability. I'm like amazed at his running style. It's just unbelievable. If they could get one receiver there, get him in some better situations to throw the ball. And Daniel Jones is that kind of guy. He can throw, 3,000 yards, and he can run 800 to 1,000 yards. He's got like that similar style. And you look at, even Mahomes, right? Like Mahomes could throw 5,000, but he finds a way to rush, 400 or 500 yards, throughout a season, and then has those like sneaky touchdowns when he has to, and I think that's the new style of the NFL offense. And then if you get these freaks like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts that are faster, bigger than any guy on the offense, which is insane when you see these guys, and these are the next guys coming out of college and everything, or that's the way the NFL's going to look at like that next level of guy. So I think Jones is maybe 1A, right? He's not the one, but he's a little bit below those guys. But you can't have every single person be Josh Allen, or Hurts. It's just not going to happen, right?
You already touched on it. Then the difference between guys like Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones is that Jones does not have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to throw to.
Right.
Jones does not have Stephon Diggs to throw to.
Yeah.
So if you get him some weapons in that offense, he very well could be lethal.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, but and I think about that when Josh Allen, the year before they got Stephon Diggs, there were people in Buffalo that wasn't sure he was going to be the guy anymore. They were a little concerned with him. Diggs comes in there, and all of a sudden he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league, right? So I think that's where we're going. But let's flip real quick here. Let's talk about these playoffs coming in. We dug into these New York teams, for our audience out there. All right, Mike, we got.
Yes.
I'm not even looking at it. I'm going off the top of my head.
Oh, go ahead.
We got the Eagles 1.
Yes. Yep.
We got the Niners 2. The Vikings with 3. Tampa is locked up to 4.
Yep.
Of course, Tom Brady throws 400 yards yesterday and 3 touchdowns.
Of course.
The 5 is Dallas.
Yes.
The 6 is the Giants.
Yep.
And the 7 is very interesting. So the Packers win. They're the 7. The Lions win. They need Seattle to lose to be the 7. And then if Seattle wins, they need the Lions to win. So basically, the Packers have destiny in their own hands. They don't need anyone else to help them.
So even though the Packers are theoretically the 9th seed right now, they just need to win.
And they're in.
Got it.
Yeah, because they have the tiebreaker against Seattle.
Okay.
And then, of course, they'll have the better record than Detroit at that point.
I hope for our Packers fans.
What a turnaround, huh? They were 4-8.
No one expected that.
4-8. Aaron Rodgers, maybe he was like the original, guy that could run for 500 yards and pass for 4,000. But,
right.
Hall of Fame guys. Me and my brother were joking yesterday. The NFC is falling apart. These guys are all getting hurt. Teams look beatable. We're going to have Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, man.
I tell you, Brady.
Don't say it.
Freaking Brady, man. He plays 3 quarters of no football, 0 football. He looks like he's a 45-year-old quarterback for 3 quarters. That 4th quarter starts, for some reason, you put him down 11 points. It's like that 11-point number. Like you don't want to be up 11 points on Tampa in the 4th quarter because that's when he comes back and just freaking.
That's what greatness is. That's what greatness is.
He's unbelievable with this stuff. You know what? It just doesn't shock me anymore. But all right, so think about this now. Jalen Hurts is hurt. Everybody that thought that the Eagles team could win with any quarterback. Can go F themselves now, right? Chris Sims and all his high and mighty stuff, he should apologize for all the nonsense he said because Jalen Hurts is the real deal and they need him. He's right up there, the MVP candidate with Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and whoever else you want to throw in there. So you can see it. But here's the interesting thing. They lose and Dallas wins. Dallas wins the division. So they automatically drop to the 5. But if San Francisco wins, doesn't matter if Dallas won or not. San Francisco becomes the 1 seed. Dallas becomes the 2 seed. Doesn't matter because they got the tiebreaker against Minnesota.
Yeah.
So it's possible San Fran still gets the 1. I think what helps now. Here's the even crazier thing. I thought 4 weeks ago that the Giants would be in a good position playing the Eagles because I figured the Eagles would rest all their starters and the Giants would play that Eagles game to get in and would probably win because the Eagles would rest all their starters. Now I think the Giants are going to rest everybody because they can't improve their position.
That's right.
And the Eagles are going to come out and play Tyrod Taylor and Matt Breida and some other wide receiver that, was hanging out on the corner of Patterson 3 weeks ago before, that's now, in the league, right? I mean, it's insane. I think the Eagles, Hurts or no Hurts, are going to win that game by default because of the matchups.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think they're going to get the 1 seed. And Hurts is going to basically be rested now for 5 weeks.
He'll be back.
And be back for the playoff game. Now it's possible he's healthy enough to play next week. I can promise you that probably Sirianni did not want Hurts to even think about playing. I'm pretty sure they wanted to shut him down for the rest of the regular season because he landed pretty hard on that shoulder when you go back and watch that hit in Chicago. So, but I still think the Eagles are the 1 seed. I think San Fran will be the 2, 3, 4. I think the Packers are going to get in. I think the Packers are going to beat the Lions. What do you think?
I agree. The Packers they have the momentum right now. They want this huge win over the Vikings. And I just think Aaron Rodgers and his experience and going against the Lions, I think they're going to get it. It is funny what you said about the Eagles because you're right. We look back even a couple of weeks ago, we thought they would be resting. Now the Giants will be resting. That helps the Eagles. They should get that 1 seed. So I do like I like the Packers to get in that 7th seed. And it will be a good matchup. But, with these NFL playoffs, Vinny and Jason, we talked about from the beginning of the season, it is the wild, wild west out there. And I feel like right now, if you looked at certain teams that you felt were going to make the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season, yeah, you may have the same idea. But we saw like teams like the Bengals, they're getting hot at the right time. Brady and his playoff experience, like you just don't know. It is all up in the air, I think. I really do.
Yeah. It's just crazy, and I will tell you one other thing, and I'm going to do a usual bashing here of Carson Wentz because he deserves it.
Yes.
But I'm more angry at Ron Rivera, who should know better than putting Carson Wentz in, because at the beginning of the season, when they asked him, well, why is the rest of the NFC off to this hot start, which Jason mentioned, right? The Giants were like 5-1. I think the Eagles were 6-0. Dallas and
they were
both 5-1, and like Washington was like 1-5 or something.
Yeah.
And they asked him like, why aren't you guys at that same level? And he said the quarterback, right? Yeah. And then he had to go back and apologize to Wentz and say Wentz is my guy and all this stuff. Now I understand Heineke lost 3 games in a row before yesterday. But where in the right mind did Ron Rivera at any point say to himself in that game, Wentz is not going to win this game for us? Like he had to say to himself, some of these throws he makes, there's one thing to throw an interception. It's the kind of interceptions this guy throws. Triple teams, guys underneath the cover. Like he doesn't see anything, right? And Ron Rivera should be ashamed of himself. He should have been more ashamed of himself when they asked him yesterday that, in the I think it was Green Bay and Minnesota. I think that was the game. If Green Bay won, they were out of the playoffs. I think that's what it was. He didn't even know that. Like he's like, what do you mean we're out? Like, well, if Green Bay wins it, he's like, well, we'll have to see. Dude, you didn't even know you were out of the playoffs if you didn't win yesterday?
Playoffs.
Yeah. Playoffs. More. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing. I'm just like, I don't understand. At one time, I thought Carson Wentz was going to be the next big thing, and I'm tired of seeing him in these things and then you hear all the news, and Jason says about Zach Wilson. Every locker room you hear about Carson Wentz, wherever he goes, they can't stand him. They couldn't stand him in Philly. The owner of the Colts couldn't wait to get rid of him in Indianapolis. Now Washington, every time Heineke comes in, the locker room acts like it's the second coming of Joe Montana showed up. I mean, it's Taylor Heineke. I mean, come on. The guy was a backup in the XFL, and they're so happy to see him. I mean, where's Ron Rivera's thought process?
You guys know the Commanders' ownership, though. I mean, there is no ownership.
No,
so you look at the only thing that I can point to, being a college guy, if I see the things that you're talking about, Vin, from a quarterback, it's nothing for him to get pulled, right? But in the pros, man, it's different. You're paying them dudes money.
I know.
And the ownership and the GM and those guys are going, well, we're paying this guy millions of dollars. And what, you're going to start the Taylor Heineke guy who we don't even know where he went to college. We don't even know this guy. He's, just some dude. And we've got Carson Wentz sitting over here who, he's got a Super Bowl ring. And I use air quotations there for the listeners, but, don't come at me. But, Wentz, they're paying him big money, a lot of experience. You got to feel like as a football coach, it's like, well, who gives us a better chance to win? On paper, it's not Heineke, it's Wentz. But I agree with all the things you said about his play,
Scary. It's scary play. Yeah. All right, let's do AFC here. I know we're running a little over, but who cares? Let's talk a little AFC. I tell you, I'm really impressed with the number 4 seed team in the entire AFC is Jacksonville. I think Trevor Lawrence has figured it out. I think their offense is pretty impressive right now. Now they're young. I think they're, are they gonna beat a Charger team or Baltimore in the first round? Maybe, but I've been impressed with them. They still got to beat Tennessee next, this week coming up to actually get into the 4 seed, for sure. I think they do that. I think Tennessee is just falling off the cliff totally. Josh Dobbs is going to QB again. They don't have really a starter. It's just, it's really falling off of them. But I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy that we know was a superstar coming out, right? He was highest rated quarterback to come out since Peyton Manning and all this stuff. And then the Urban Meyer disaster there last year. To me, he was essentially a rookie again, had to relearn everything. And his last 5-6 weeks have been just phenomenal. So I think, I'm happy to see Jacksonville, there and making the thing. But the top 3 teams there, and this is what I want to get, forget about Baltimore, forget about the Chargers, forget about if the Dolphins or Patriots get in. We know it's all about Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati. And we have a huge game in a few hours tonight where Buffalo is going to have to play the Bengals in Cincinnati. Basically, if Cincinnati wins, Kansas City's the 1 seed. If Buffalo wins, they retain their 1 seed, but they're going to have to win next week. But, all this other stuff that's going on. Those top 3 teams right now, Mike, which of the 3 are going to the Super Bowl?
See, this is not going to be an opinion that I think most people are going to agree with, but it's my opinion. I think the Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I think that Joe Burrow has this team on a different level. I think they're playing well at the right time, and I think they're a team that's kind of flown under the radar, and I'm going to put my money on them.
Are they going to be the 2020 Buffalo Bills?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the 1990 Buffalo Bills?
1990 Buffalo Bills.
Are the Bengals going to be the 2020 version?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Are they going to be able to get to Super Bowls the next few years and not be able to go over the top, just not be good enough?
Well,
like a healthy Eagles team, do you see anyone beating a healthy Eagles team?
That's good. It's good. Very difficult because
right?
You make a good point.
Neutral field, Jalen Hurts.
Yes, he's
that defense that has 4 different guys with 10+ sacks. They're probably gonna end up with close to the record in sacks to the 85 Bears. 2 All-Pro kind of corners. I mean, it's just nuts, right? I mean, their offensive line doesn't let up any sacks.
They're powerful. But, just getting back to what you were saying about the AFC,
yeah,
we saw that Kansas City was very vulnerable to Cincinnati. You saw the way Cincinnati played Kansas City. We saw a Buffalo team that lost to the New York Jets. and the Jets were very competitive with, right? So they are beatable, right, at the right times. And yeah, they've had some injuries, but I feel tonight's going to be very telling. And I just feel like Cincinnati's just got, again, there's something about them. I feel they're just playing on a different level right now at the right time that's going to give them momentum to make a big run in these playoffs. I really do.
I think if the Bengals win tonight, I think they end up as the 2 seed because I can't see the Raiders beating the Chiefs next week, right? So I think the Chiefs get in 14-3. Everyone else goes 13-4. And then the Bills will play, let's just say, the Chargers, right? Maybe the Ravens. Let's say the Ravens. Just I think it's probably more the Ravens. I think the Bills win that game. I think whoever has to play Cincinnati, Miami, New England, Pittsburgh, I think going into Cincinnati is just too tough of a game, the next week and all that. And then Kansas City gets the bye, right? So essentially, I think, again, you're probably going to get Buffalo to play Cincinnati again. And, again, you're going to get Cincinnati or Buffalo to play Kansas City in a championship game. I think that's the way it's going to play out. I think the AFC is very top-heavy, where the NFC is just a little suspect. And I think more because of the uncertainty of Hurts,
right?
Because he doesn't play. It's like all of a sudden, like you said, Tom Brady is there, right? He showed he could throw 400 yards and 3 touchdowns yesterday. I know it was Carolina, but still he showed he could still do it.
Right.
It's still the NFL, right? So I think we got this top-heavy AFC and a very, very, interesting NFC, very interesting. Jason, what do you think?
In the AFC, it's impossible for me to bet against Kansas City if they, like you said, because I don't see Vegas beating them next week. So to me, KC's probably your 1 seed. That's who I would bet on. And if they're playing in Arrowhead, it's hard for me to bet against them with anyone coming to town. I mean, be it the Bengals or the Bills, whoever. It's hard for me to bet against Kansas City if they are the 1 seed. And as far as the NFC goes, just roll the dice, man. If Hurts is healthy, I agree with you guys, but the 12-win Vikings look so beatable some days, and other days Justin Jefferson is absolutely unstoppable and on another level, and no one can cover him. And he might just take over a game, and the Vikings end up winning another game, their 9th one this year, by 1 score. So it's just the NFC, man. I have no idea. I wouldn't feel great betting on any one team, especially with the Eagles being, kind of in flux there with Hurts. And, Dallas is another team. Like, if they get in, Dallas could make a run. We've seen them crush teams. They beat the Vikings, by 40 a few weeks ago?
Yeah,
and it's just like, Jesus, man. What? I don't know what's going to happen in the NFC, but I still think the 2 best teams in the NFL right now, in my opinion, in a playoff situation, are Buffalo and Kansas City. I wouldn't bet against either one of those teams with anyone coming to town.
Okay. Be interesting. Mahomes has been in 4 straight AFC championship games, potentially go to a 5th straight, and has never played a road game in the playoffs. I mean, that says a lot about his regular season ability and everything. And of course, is 1-1 in Super Bowls on top of it. So it's definitely the guy that it's hard to bet against. I think we try to figure out ways to bet against him because he's so good.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's it. We don't need to do the round ball thing tonight. We'll get into that next week. Me and Mike. It's a long basketball season anyway. It's like 33 months of basketball nonstop.
Got plenty to talk about.
So, all right, Jason Bailey, thank you from again the South EndZone Podcast. His prediction was, I think, 47-23 Georgia over TCU.
Something around in there, yeah.
He's basically saying, take the over, take the points, go Bulldogs is what he's saying. So check him out. He's on Twitter at Jason Bailey 47. South EndZone is on there as well. You can just go to his Twitter. It's linked up, the whole thing. Check them out. Really good podcast over there. Thanks again, Jason.
All right,
And
guys.
again,
Thanks for having me.
audience, we appreciate you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank
Sorry
you, man.
about the Jets. I gave you some shit about it, but I'm a Raiders fan. I gotta dump on somebody.
Yeah, you got to dump on somebody.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
See you next time.
See y'all.
Bye.